It's time for another performance vlog update. Unfortunately, this is not the update that I wanted to give. Things were going really, really well until we ended up in this. Let's chat. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the performance vlog. Should now be termed the rehab vlog. Been a bit of a different one over the last little while, and again, I've said this in a video I put up a couple of weeks ago, doing some of my training analysis and that. Like I had some other things go on that sort of interrupted everything, and that's why I've been a bit quiet anyway, and it's just gone from, when I say a bit bad, from worse. Pretty much 2022 hasn't really started out as great as I wanted it to, especially from a training and performance side of things, which ultimately has led me to end up in the moon boot, as I showed you in the introduction. So foot's up here. Long story short, basically what happened was I was going pretty well. I had a couple of other things going on in the background that I sort of got through, and I'll talk about those at some point in time. I was going really well from an umpiring perspective. I was having some really great performances, and I was umpiring really well. I was really confident in what was going on. I was actually training really well also, and I've sort of noticed over the last couple of years, and I mentioned this in previous installments, over the last couple of years, comparatively, I haven't noticed as much of a change as I have this year. This year, my aerobic work was really going great. I mean, in terms of the progression I saw, and just that, when I say the ease at which it was improving as well, I sort of did, I guess, get over the top of a bit of a barrier that I'd been stuck on the last few years, and I was actually starting to see myself run a little bit quicker, feel a lot stronger aerobically in some of those sessions, and all in all, it was starting to come together quite nicely. Ultimately, if I go to when things started to happen, realistically, what are we now? We're Saturday now as of recording this. So not last Saturday, the Sunday before that, so 2 weeks ago now. I had a game. I felt a little bit sore in my ankle, and so I warmed up, and as I got going, it sort of dissipated. Got through the game okay, and I was a little bit sore, but I was pretty fine afterwards, like no sort of limping or anything like that. It was all pretty okay. Then I got into the rest of the week. I started to get back into training for that week to then prepare for the next weekend, of which I didn't actually have a game that coming weekend. So I was actually scheduled to just be an emergency umpire and not actually have to run a game, which was going to give me a bit of a break anyway. It probably wasn't my preference, but I thought, okay, if there is any niggles there, it's going to end up being okay because I'm going to get the week off, let it subside, let it sort of recover. I'll deload a bit this week in terms of my training, and then we'll get back into it the following week, which normally is a pretty sort of safe bet. I mean, that's sort of a good strategy I typically recommend. If you're feeling not 100%, don't keep pushing 100%. Like sometimes you just might need that extra bit of recovery. But as that week went on, things just progressively got worse. So it went from just having a bit of a sore ankle into what felt like a little bit of tib post, maybe tendinopathy or some stress syndrome. Basically what I'm getting at here is some shin splint type sort of symptoms. Got in, saw the physio. He was pretty agreed with that. He said maybe 1 to 2 weeks at worst. Like your symptoms are a lot worse than just normal shin splints. Like you're starting to look like you're favoring your right leg a bit. Maybe we should just have 1 or 2 weeks out. We'll go get a scan anyway. We'll chuck you in an MRI, and we'll basically see what happens as a result. And I went in, got the scan done, MRI done, and it kept still getting a little bit worse. And like things weren't really feeling like they were getting any better. And ultimately what happened was I got a phone call, Tuesday, just gone, so beginning of this week on Tuesday morning, saying we got the results back, and unfortunately there's some bone stress there, or what they call bone edema. So there's basically just swelling of the bone, which is an aggressive version of a shin splint. So that's kind of like the step between, and I had mild to severe sort of symptom there. So that's the step between what's just a shin splint that might be 1 or 2 weeks of just bit of soft tissue work, release everything, take the stress off it, maybe deload your training a bit, get back into your normal, versus the other side of it is once that progresses, and if that keeps getting worse, that bone edema and that swelling, that's what leads into something like a stress fracture. So at that point, we were then starting to talk, okay, it's probably not going to be 1 to 2 weeks. It's actually probably going to be maybe 3 to 4. We might see it might be up to 6. We'll sort of see how we go. We need probably a second opinion, and because the scan came back and showing there was nothing soft tissue damage, it then kind of gets handballed off to a sports doctor, because the bone aspect is more of a doctor's jurisdiction and the medical side of things. So then we go and see the sports doctor later in the week, and I guess this kind of sounds like a bit of a cycle of every person I saw, things just progressively got worse and worse in terms of the discussion around how long I'd be out for, to which by that point, by the time I saw the sports doctor on Thursday last week, I was already on crutches. I got the moon boot as a precaution, but I definitely, prior to putting the boot on last Wednesday, I sort of felt, I'm losing a little bit of ability to put weight on my left foot, which in my mind was never really a good sign. And I always sort of had a bit of a gut feeling that it was not just like the pain wasn't going away, and I mean, it was so up and down in terms of when the pain was coming in, but it seemed to just get worse even though I wasn't training. So I mean, as we speak now, I haven't trained at all for about a week. Ultimately, we get to the sports doctor. She brings up the MRI. Like, great conversation. We went through absolutely everything, but she brings up the MRI and is showing me a few things and goes, what we look for on the scan, blah, blah, blah. And she's pointing these things out. And in my mind, I just go, it's just ticking over going, this is worse than what we thought it was, even though we thought that we found out it was worse than what we originally thought. So it just kept down, like, sort of upgrading it to a different level, to ultimately she sort of had the opinion that, and this is a bit of a doctor versus doctor type thing at this point, in terms of, there is a small minor stress fracture in my tibia, which is one of the weight bearing bones in my leg. The position of it though is at the rear, so the posterior side, which is much better in terms of getting blood supply to it, which is going to help hopefully heal it a bit quicker and less a chance of recurring injury. But the anterior side, if you get it there, that's more of a problem. So I got a bit lucky there. And we went through all the potential factors that might be causing it, all of this type of stuff that we have to try and consider. But basically, I had the doctor who assessed the scan in the first place didn't think there was a stress fracture. The sports doctor thought there was a stress fracture, or a very, very, very minor one, and even she admitted it's like very, very minor, that like you could call it either way and say it's probably actually not really a fracture. So, but we're better off treating it as if it is one, because if we can recover really quick as a result, well, bonus. But if we try to recover too quick thinking it's less than a stress fracture, then ultimately I might be in some more trouble and it might be more time out. So where we've landed, what's the process from here, where we've landed, I'm going to be in a boot for probably another 3 weeks at an absolute minimum. So I've already been, like I said, been in the boot for a couple of days. So we're going to be in it for another at least 3 weeks. Depending on how it heals. At the moment, I'm on crutches completely. I can't weight bear, hence why this video is going to be a little bit boring of just me sitting on the couch, because I can't really get up and walk anywhere. I'm not allowed to put any weight on my left leg. At least for the first week. We're going to do some assessments with the sports doc next week again to just sort of see how things are going, and then ultimately we sort of work out from there. Once I come off crutches, the plan at this stage is to come off crutches and then still be in the boot, but I can walk. So the point of that is to take some of the pressure off, but start to get some load through the bone. Bones need the load so they don't refracture. Basically, we need to get that increased tolerance. It's the same with anything. Like if we teach our tissues and our muscles to be able to tolerate higher forces and more load, tendons as well, they're going to be more resilient. And so that's what I'm going to have to progressively do again. I'm also going to have to build my left calf up, because that's going to lose a lot of muscle over the next little while, because it's completely inactive. At least my right is getting some stimulus still, so we're going to do some work to try and get that evened out and work out some imbalances. Like I said, in the boot for a few weeks. I'm going to be walking in the boot, and then once I come out of the boot, I've got another brace that's on its way that will allow me to wear a shoe again, but it'll sort of keep my tibia in place, which will be a little bit further down the line. I'll probably be in that for a couple of weeks. And then ultimately, once I come out of that brace, it's just a case of return to running. So that's the part I'm looking forward to most, being able to get out there and train again. But all in all, what does this look like? This is week 1, I guess, so to speak, since we've been put in the boot and put on crutches. So the thought process at the moment is this is going to be a 12-weeker in terms of time out, which is pretty tough. So that's 3 months until I'm going to be able to umpire again, which was pretty hard to sort of hear after initially being told, let's hope it's only a 1 to 2, and then being told maybe it's a 4 to 6, and then now being told it's probably a 12. especially with how I was going from a game perspective, that's probably the disappointing part for me, is that I started the year pretty well, and so it's just set a few things back. But I know that it's such a long season. I've said this before, like going through and doing the AFLW stuff to begin with, it was always going to be a long year. We're starting, round 1 was January, like going to go through and do games all the way probably September, and then have to come back into the season again earlier next year, because that's going to be a longer year again. So it's really critical that I don't rush now. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I'm going to be out for a bit, but I'd rather get myself right, get back into umpiring throughout the year. I've still got plenty of time to do plenty of great things from an umpiring perspective and a training perspective and a performance side of things, and all of that can still come back. There's so much time for it. It's still very, very early in the year. So if there's any time to have this happen, now is probably one of those times. But it is going to be sort of disappointing. I mean, even sort of sitting at home now, like watching some of the other the guys that I umpire with on TV, watching them through the AFLW games, has been a bit sort of like it's a bit hard to take, because you want to be out there with them and having fun and doing what I love doing and what I love training for. But apart from anything, I mean, even at this point, I'm not allowed to ride. I'm not allowed to jump on the bike. The only things I really can do are some very basic upper body stuff, but even then I've been pretty tired the last few days just by carrying myself around on crutches, and do some like balancing exercises on my right foot, which again is pretty much what I'm doing anyway, just to get around the apartment and do some daily stuff. At least I can still get back in and do some work, so I just have to be a little bit more sort of seated for the stuff I do in the lab. All in all, a bit of a different one, when I say a bit of a flat performance vlog update, and so apologies for that. Obviously there's not going to be any training, at least for the next week or two. If I do start getting some rehab exercise I'm allowed to do, I'll try to film those and we'll incorporate it. I guess this performance vlog is now going to be renamed over the next little while to the rehab vlog. If you want to see how the process is going, absolutely keep up to date. Let me know what you want to see with this rehab. I try as best I can to film a lot of that, and in terms of my rehab process, because I think it's valuable in terms of seeing this. It's going to be a long process. A lot of the injuries that we commonly hear of from endurance athletes in particular, and the stuff we talk about on this channel, probably isn't something as significant as a 12-weeker. Like, that's a pretty long process. But I understand as well, stress fractures are a commonplace in runners in particular, and triathletes and endurance athletes. So it's one of those things you might find it interesting. So if you do, please subscribe to the channel, support the channel and the videos. I do appreciate everyone's support. Hopefully you get something out of this. Like I said, today is a bit of a boring one, but we'll try to make it a little bit more involved in terms of what's happening and what's going on over the next little while. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to continue just to chill out, sit on the couch, boot up on the beanbag in front of me. But otherwise, appreciate all your support on the channel. Look forward to making another video, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.